And his opponent spawning down in the bottom right for Maturino from the United States of America. Give it up for Maxwell Astrea Angel.
I feel like the music crescendoed into this almost American-sounding segment for that as well. That was absolutely perfect. I've been digging all of the Christmassy theme music and everything for this event.
Absolutely. It's a nice theme, but we got something right out the gate. I talked to Astrea about this yesterday. I said, watch out for the Proxy 2-Racks Marauder, and Cure, he is wasting no time going for that. It is going to be instantly into this build. And that is kind of Cure's bread and butter in these best of threes. He has no compunction about saying, you know what? You need to defend perfectly. Do it.
Yeah, he's going to be very, very excellent at doing exactly that. But Astrea is going to scout this out nice and early on. He confirms a couple of things. One, he sees there's no barracks at home, so that maybe there's a barracks in the natural or something. But also confirming and seeing, okay, when is that second gas guys going to be taken? Trying to identify, is this going to be some factory follow-up? Is there a factory coming down back at home? Is there potentially a factory proxy? These are all the things Astrea is going through in his mind to try and figure out, what do I need to do to defend?
Absolutely, and he is taking the correct steps right here. He grabs that second pylon, grabs that second gas. He is not going to be having to defend a natural expansion, and this is going to be a very scary build. Astrea, once again, he's just confirming. He's like, okay, is there something that I'm missing here? No? Good? And he drops the shield battery at the front. That's a great decision. It might be a little bit far forward, but it is still in range to get battery overcharged, and that's probably the most important thing. And he's not going to have to defend the low ground. He is set up pretty brilliantly to deal with this so far.
Yeah, if Astrea can actually manage a strong defense here, it's going to put him into a fantastic position, but he has to make sure it's a strong defense because, again, like you said, he did not get a low ground. He doesn't have an expansion behind this that he's going to be able to just try and take a larger advantage off of. He needs to have a really, really strong shutdown of this.
And there it is. It's basically been shut down now. Now the question is, what does Cure do out of this? I like what we're seeing from Astrea. He drops the robo facility, he drops 2 more gates, and he might just go for a big one-base play. Obviously, you can still expand behind this, but I really like this position for Astrea right now. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see if Cure, tries to transition out or if he's just going to go full send.
Yeah, I really want to see how this actually plays out, and I'll talk a little bit more about how Astrea is playing this out a little bit later because we have the Marauders target firing down the shield battery that's already been overcharged. Pro's being pulled off the line as well. The shield battery does get taken out. One Marauder suffers a loss there during all of that, and Astrea, he's losing some hit points on a Stalker, but keeps it alive, just doesn't have another shield battery to heal it up though.
No, but there's that sentry. We don't see that bonus damage. Oh, the force field allows for a probes around on one of the Marauders, but the Marauders are getting a lot of damage to these Stalkers. He will be able to clear out most of the Marauders, and once the Immortal comes out, this is going to be pretty much fully shut down. Hey, beautiful surround on the probes right there. And now with an Immortal on the high ground, even though the shield battery has been taken out, even though a lot of probes have gone down, Astrea pretty much fully stabilizes here. And we can see Cure, he's already worried about the counterattack.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time we'll see games like this where there's that proxy that happens, and even though it looks like it's not going to end the game, the proxy does a lot of damage. We saw some probes and stuff go down, but then we look back at the Terran base and they have an expansion down, or they already have a factory finish or something. The factory started up basically as those Marauders were dying. This was not Cure looking to say, oh yeah, I already have transitions getting set up. No, Cure was pretty invested into making it happen, so I totally agree. Astrea getting himself into a very interesting spot in this game, a very chaotic and unstandard game.
Yeah, no kidding. You talked about being dragged down into the mud. I mean, this is definitely Cure being the one who drags Astrea down into the mud. And a couple of things we got to mention as well. So obviously the tech from Cure was heavily delayed. The expansion's delayed. He's just now starting it up. But Astrea also delayed Warp Gate in order to make this defense happen. And you could see on the camera, he was a little bit kind of flustered. I think he was hoping to get away without losing any probes. But now is his opportunity to find some equalizing damage with this Warp Prism, with this Immortal, and see if he can kind of equalize the economic position, because he is down a couple workers.
Yeah, and remember, this is kind of a weird spot here for Cure because he has to rely on things like the Cyclone stuff popping out of the factory. The barracks were floating home. He didn't exactly have a ton of bio production during all of this, much less, I mean, there's a handful of Marauders there, but that means there's actually fewer Marines to even push back the Warp Prism.
Yeah, no, exactly. He's going to be very reliant on that Cyclone, and that Cyclone will melt if the Immortal gets any shots. We see quite a nice little dance coming in, but there's the Immortal. Oh, 1-2! No, he doesn't get the third shot. Cure barely gets the save. Oh, wow. Okay, if Astrea didn't have the War Prism in its phase mode, he could have picked up and hunted down that Cyclone potentially. But now with the Viking here, oh, Astrea needs to recall right this second. But it's going to be too late. He might lose everything. Yes, he does. Only the Sentry gets out. That is a huge set of pickoffs in favor of Cure.
Things really, really turn around because what Astrea was relying on is he had all these power units. Like you said, his Warp Gate, a lot of the other things were delayed. So he was utilizing the Warp Prism and the Immortal, the two early Robo units he's able to get out fast. And now he did manage to somehow keep the Observer alive. Looks like it hasn't been detected or scanned or picked off or anything just yet. But Cure's going to be feeling a lot better. And as I say that Caster Curse, it immediately gets found and picked on off.
Yeah, you know what? I wasn't too sure, because this is a very unfamiliar position for both of them. I wasn't too sure whose position I liked more, because Cure did transition rather smoothly out of this this Proxy Marauder play, and he did get some fair bit of damage. But I was looking for that counterattack to find more value than it did. It only killed the supply depot, and he lost all of those valuable units. Now he's going to lose this Proxy Pylon. That actually won't really supply block him, because he had another Pylon finishing up almost simultaneously. But this is a very funky position. I don't know if the triple Nexus is going to be enough to kind of mitigate the effect, since he didn't really get that much counter damage.
Yeah, I think one thing I really love about StarCraft is it's not just a game that you can look at and say, well, this player is just ahead. It's like, you know, there's different ways that players are ahead. Astrea going for the double Nexus play here and doing these fast expansion plays, yeah, he lost a lot of those early game units, so his army value is not that strong. He's very susceptible to an attack with, say, some siege tanks and a Raven that Cure already has. So Cure has an advantage in one area, Astrea has an advantage in another area. If Astrea can survive, Astrea is eventually going to be able to eke out a larger overall advantage. But right now, Cure has a big threat looming on the horizon.
Yeah, he does. And this Viking, it scouted out the third Nexus, did not reveal itself, and now he gets into the main base. He's going to gun down so many probes right here. 6 workers from a Viking. That is a fantastic find for Cure. And now I'm willing to say it, Cure is ahead. I already think he was in a good position just because of the Astrea's inability to get that counterattack damage, but now killing those additional probes, I really think holding this next attack is going to be a huge challenge for Astrea. He's got those Colossus out, but he's not going to have a huge gateway count. Can we take a look at what the gateway count is right now? I don't think it's particularly high. 3, that's not bad. What we're waiting for, l'explosion de gateway.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough to afford it because of things like you said. The probe snipes actually really do hurt. And
they slow it down a lot.
Instead, right now, Astrea is going to have one of the most flimsy but potentially powerful looking Protoss armies. There's going to be a lot of these power units like Colossus, maybe some of those Immortals and stuff in the mix, and the Shield Battery Overcharge is going to be available at that third base or that natural. But he needs to make those power units be ultra effective. Those Sentry Force Fields, the Guardian Shield, all these things have to be extremely crisp and on point if he has any chance of surviving this.
Yeah, the Immortals need to snipe the tanks. The force fields need to keep the Marauders out, pull the Marines in, and he needs those +1 Colossus to absolutely pop off. He is adding on a Disruptor now, which is actually like kind of nice, a nice wild card unit. And there will not be, unless I missed it, I don't think he researched Interference Matrix. But this looks very dangerous.
Oh, no.
He is so out of position, loses that shield battery, siege tanks, siege on top of the Nexus, battery overcharge. I like the hallucinated Archons. That is a cool play right there. Immortals need to be targeting down those tanks. They're not getting them. There they go. But the Nexus has already fallen. Can Astrea get the fight he needs? I mean, even just losing the Immortals after losing that Nexus this looks pretty dire for Astrea, even though he cleans up a lot of the army.
Yeah, nice focus fire with the Photon Cannon on the medevac to try and make sure that at least fewer units can potentially escape there. It looks like you're still going to be able to find a fair amount of damage, and I'm with you. That was not the kind of engagement that Astrea was looking for. He was super out of position, and Cure jumped on that opportunity. Did a really great job with the engagement overall, but Astrea still took a better fight by the end of it than I thought he would. So I do wonder, is this a situation you can recover from when you're behind after losing that third base, or is this just going to be, you know, all she wrote?
It's going to be so tough. Like, Cure's got his own third command center finished up. He's getting that orbital on the way. The one thing that's really nice for Astrea is that his +2 weapons is really far along, considering how the game has gone. But this is going to make things even more difficult. I love that Cure is spreading Astrea out. The recall is going to lose a Colossus, and he loses the Disruptor before the shot connects. That is, well, that actually might be all she wrote now.
That was the one advantage, right? Is that he kept those power units alive.
Yeah. and even loses another 12 probes. Now this game is pretty much done and dusted, barring some kind of miracle. Obviously, Astrea, he's going to stay in it, fight it out. He doesn't necessarily know the exact game state because it was such a weird start.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think you got to focus maybe a little bit more on collecting your thoughts. Try and take the best fights you can, sure. And Cure, he's probably going to slow play this. There's no reason for him to overplay his hand.
Yeah, nice little pickoff over here on potentially a medevac. Can he get one more shot or two more shots? It doesn't look like it, but still makes it hard for Cure to drop back in. Cure is just going to be playing this a little bit slower, have a couple of medevacs and stuff, looking for harassment, and taking advantage of the fact that Astrea doesn't have that large of an army, and try and gradually secure the advantages he already has, close this game out in that fashion. But I like something that I've always admired about Astrea is he's one of those players that when he sticks in games, it's not because he's, you know, coming to terms with things and he's on copium or something. Like, Astrea is a player that does throw out enough chaos and has made enough comebacks that he sometimes, even if it's just 5 or 10% of the time, he is one of those players I actually trust to stay in a game, not be mentally like affected by playing a losing game for a long period of time. And every so often he mounts that comeback and it's all worth it in the end.
Oh, absolutely. It's all about the mentality, because it's not like playing one best of 3 is going to exhaust these players. Like, obviously there's a mental aspect to it, but like you said, Astrea just has such a good mindset. He's one of the players that consistently in interviews says, I just like to play builds that are fun. and that's such an admirable thing. It sounds like such a simple statement, but it really can allow you to pull off some absolute miracles. Now, Cure, he is doing all the right things from this position. 4th command center on the way, 2-2 on the way. He is setting up to deny this 4th base. Astrea gonna try and contest, but the Widowmine's already getting some big shots and a huge anti-armor missile. Cure, a couple of units kind of coming in from the top side, and I think he can just kind of hunt this army down. But battery overcharge, well, there it is. He's slow playing it, and once again, I do not blame Cure in the slightest. He already achieved the objective with this push, which is denying the 4th base.
Yeah, I think actually the way that Cure's playing, it just is so resonant with Cure's overall tournament performances.
Yeah.
Like, he is consistent. Why is he so consistent as a player and able to consistently do well? Well, he makes safe choices and stuff like this, where he says, oh, well, maybe I could have pushed in and tried to end it there, but I didn't need to. I'm going to just try and go for this. Gets an anti-army missile on the Colossus. It's not even going to need to clean up the army. He ends up taking that first game.
Yeah, to be honest, that fight looked pretty good for Astrea from the eye test, but it's so telling. We had with the picture-in-picture, there was that double drop in the back.
Yeah.
It was going to depower a bunch of production. It really didn't even matter what it targeted in the main base. Any bit of damage was going to pretty much knock Astrea out of that game. And it's really telling that how well that fight looked like it was going. Astrea still taps out. But honestly, I think, yeah, you just got to put that game out of your mind. It was a weird start. I think maybe the shield battery was a little bit too far forward. You can see that Cure targeted that shield battery down, and it made things complicated from the very get-go. But this is, for me, this is the big moment that really kind of, it didn't seal the deal, but it put Astrea into such an awkward position, and that is losing the Immortal in the War Prism.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, there's this push that you can go back to, and Astrea taking a surprisingly good fight with the Hallucinate and Archons and everything. But I want to go back to exactly what you were talking about. The War Prism and the Immortal. Of course, the Immortal, I don't even have to explain why Immortals are good. I think most people know why Immortals are good, but the War Prism itself, just the threat of it, is also something that keeps Cure at home and makes him feel a little bit less comfortable about doing an easy move out. It makes it more possible for Colossus to be micro during the actual fight. There's so much power in just keeping the Prism alive. Even if you don't end up using it a ton, the fact that it's there means Cure has to respect it, and maybe that push comes out a little bit later. Astrea has a little bit more time. All those things change, like you said, off of a very strange game if that one move doesn't happen.
Yeah, and even with that particular move, there was a moment where Astrea got 2 shots on the Cyclone with the Immortal. And if Cure doesn't pull that back, if Astrea's got the War Prism ready to lift up, it's not in that phase mode, it's in the transportation mode, and he's able to pick off that Cyclone. There's not enough DPS maybe to kill the War Prism. Maybe he even gets out with the Immortal too, and it's a completely different game. Like, there were so many little things that could have gone differently, and it could have really changed the entire outlook of that game.
At the end of the day, though, we do have to recognize whatever reality we're in, because this man earned that first game, and he made the most of every opportunity presented to him. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, we have our red Terran player setting up 1-0 from Team Liquid. He is Cure.
And his opponent, he needs your energy for Matcherino. It is Astrea.
I feel like I'm about to watch a movie of Santa riding his reindeer into battle against the Grinch or something, man. His music is incredible.
It is really fun. Yeah, it adds a nice little bit of flavor to it. We are going to see something interesting out of Kure. He already had a pretty tilting victory over Astrea, and we could see even on the player cam, Astrea not looking too happy with how that went. I really like that Kure, after that game 1 victory, he sets up with a gas first engineering bay block. Now, Astrea is going to go for a pretty quick scout on this, but not as quick as you can. This was meant to be, I think, a gate nexus. So Astrea, he is going to have to go for that gate cybernetics core. It's a couple seconds late even. It's not the worst thing in the world. Don't get me wrong, but it would have been a lot nicer for him if he could have jumped it right away. And this is one of those things that maybe after a tough game 1 loss, it can kind of natter at you a little bit, can kind of get in your headspace.
Yeah. Nice probe micro actually here from Astrea, because you can see he's trying to, oh wow, Kure. Oh my god, that's actually so amazingly well done. Astrea was doing a great job with the probe micro to try and body block the SCV from continuing to add hit points to engineering bay number 1. Kure's just like, no, I'll just build a second one, that's fine.
Yeah, and another one, and another one. Yeah, that was, it didn't actually add that much value, and by the numbers, it may not even be worthwhile because it didn't delay that much longer, but the mental damage, I think, is absolutely worth it. Astrea, though, he's going to calm down, he's going to play his game, and, well, he's going to go for something we see from him quite a bit. That is an early sentry. Usually, when I see this, he goes sentry first, but this is still a very quick scout, and this kind of fits with what Astrea likes to do.
Yeah, I mean, Astrea's always loved, I feel like, the sentry in early game and getting those up super fast. I do remember even just in PvPs and stuff, he would be this player that no one else was doing, like these 4 or 5 sentry openings. I'm like, Astrea, you can't make this many sentries in the early game. It's not supposed to happen like this, but now you definitely find some extra value with those and getting up those early scouts. But even the Adept, gonna be a nice little early scout, sees the first little Hellion also poking its way forward.
Yeah, this is actually, seeing those first 3 Marines is kind of a good bit of information because it lets him know that it's not the fastest reactor cyclones, which is oftentimes what you need to be a little bit worried about. Kure, I wonder if he was going to go for the reactor cyclones and was really trying to bait out that 3rd nexus as where Astrea builds his natural, for his second base, I should say. But he decides not to, and Kure is going to be able to, well, he's going to be able to make some adjustments on the fly if that was his original intent. And I think this might just be a 7 Marine drop. We will see, but Astrea comes in here with a quick hallucination scout. And what do you think about this robotics facility startup from Astrea?
You know, I'm trying to think about it in the sense of like where the TVP meta is these days and just where a lot of the Cyclone pushes and stuff have been happening. I wonder if it's like you get out a fast Immortal or something, and it helps with maybe some of those early Cyclone pushes, kind of like what we saw with the Classic versus Clem series in Game 2, but I don't know. I don't hate it. It is going to be, I think, just really important that he has his units in position to deal with wherever like the harassment can come from. And that's where I also like that hallucinating scout is you get more information to know where am I going to position my units? Do I need them in the middle line? Do I need them at the front? Because I think if you have that, then I think whatever tech of the Robo or something can all work out.
Yeah, this is, okay, I was wondering what Kure was going to do with that Widowmine. Funnily enough, he's going to get a scout on the 3rd base, but it will act as a kind of 2-pronged setup. Now, you mentioned being in position. Astrea could not have been more in position for that. Ooh, burrowing up on top of the sentry. Very nice, quick probe. And he's going to deal with that Widowmine without any trouble whatsoever. And this is a pretty good start for Astrea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, deflecting the drop. There is interference or matrix being researched right now, which is something that you do actually have to research now for the Ravens. But that is going to be the kind of follow-up push here from Kure. And with Astrea going for this robotics bait just now, and the interference matrix is going to be very ready and available, it does set up for Kure having a pretty scary 2-base kind of timing push.
Yeah, and specifically the heavy Raven play, it should, on paper, do very well against a super fast robotics facility with the interference matrix. Like, he's gonna go double Raven, or actually, wait, he didn't cancel the second Raven, did he? I'm not crazy. No, he did cancel the second Raven. Okay, so he actually, wow, that actually does take a little bit of the power out of it. If it was that double Raven play, you know, having the ability to get 3-4 interference matrices on a really Robotech-dependent army could have been huge. But now, the fact that it's only the one Raven, well, that's going to take a little bit of pressure off for Astrea. He is, of course, transitioning into the Twilight Council, but you're not going to have Blink and Charge. You have to choose one or the other in time for that first push.
Yeah. Now, Kira's going to be able to move back in over here with his medevac. The Stalkers aren't too far away, but they don't have Blink just yet, so Marines can still unload, try and chip away a little bit. He is going to actually overstay his welcome a little bit. He's going to end up losing all these Marines, but trades out for 2-3 probes. I mean, not the worst in the world, but now even the medevac is kind of awkwardly stuck there, so I'm not sure if I'm as big a fan of that one.
Yeah, I think considering the fast third Nexus for Astrea and the fact that he's already added on a few extra gateways, I think I prefer that for Astrea just because now there's no threat there.
Yeah.
You know, he has to send in a new drop. That medevac is useless until it's sent back across the map and either picks up a new payload. And there we do see that explosion of gateways, as Le Todd would say. And he would also say Le Cadet Supply, which doesn't actually tell us much. So I'm just, you know, I'm just doing the casterism here.
Shots fired. But you were talking about this earlier. You can't research Blink and Charge at the same time, and even Blink is not fully done yet in time for this attack. The Gateway Explosion may be there, but the upgrades have not quite finished up. Even Thermal Lance is nearing completion. I think it'll be done in time for this push, especially if we pause and give them time to finish those upgrades. No, don't worry. The upgrades also halt when we pause the game. But.
Could you imagine that? Could you imagine how crazy that would be?
Okay, hear me out, because I know you're like a traditional sports fan and everything. Imagine, you know, you have pauses allowed in traditional sports, and you can like use that to rest. Imagine as pauses allowed in game, tactical pausing times, but the upgrade times just continue as you pause. So you can choose the moment that you really care about an upgrade.
That sounds really broken. I
want to run a tournament like
that.
Yeah,
that's amazing. You have 2 tactical pauses per like best of 5 or something, and it just basically acts as a zoom forward. Oh, and we got the game resume right there.
Yep, we'll be jumping back into the vision of the game in a second. The army is about to be pushing in. Looks like the medevac did maybe get F2'd or something and got picked off by the Stalkers, but here comes the push, and this is the big moment here.
Yeah, we are going to see the interference matrices dropping. That is very good for Astrea because he forces those out super far away. Now we are going to see Cure instantly dropping into the main base. I really like this with the double medevac drop, and that is going to be tricky to deal with. Oh man, I love Cure's instant reaction to this. Blink is going to complete momentarily. If Astrea can force the jump, oh, can he get the medevac? No, he targeted the far away one, and I think that was a missed call right there. If he blinks and targets the close one, he might have had enough Stalkers shooting to kill it, but not being able to get that medevac means that the 13 probes that Cure just killed off were not quite for free, because he obviously had to use the interference matrices, but they were pretty close to for free.
Definitely gonna suck there to lose all those workers, and Astrea even getting a little bit supply blocked now, has a couple more pylons on the way, but he still has his 3 bases economy. He can still replenish the probes as fast as he wants, but he's not actually opting to make workers right now. He's making more army, sniping off his opponent's army, and could this lead into a nice counterattack opportunity?
It might have to. We do see that second set of double drops coming back in from Cure. The Observer obviously spotting the first set. We will see, Astrea eating some rather large mine shots on the probes. Another 9 workers go down. And you talk about counterattacks. He has taken a ton of economic damage, now finds himself down 12 workers, but he hasn't been able to fully clean up these medevacs, so they still represent threat. This is now a really awkward position for Astrea. Does he have charge done? I'm not sure if he started it up beforehand.
Yeah, good question. I actually missed that as well, but there's going to be another drop coming into the main base for Cure. He's going to be able to snipe off even more workers. Astrea, if he wasn't already in a kind of all-in position before, he is very all-in now. He cannot afford to lose all of the pylons. He's going to lose 2 of his warp gates over here, and he needs those to help try and reinforce for this basically all-in that Astrea is committing to now.
Yeah, this is fully committed right here. Big Blink forward will find one of the tanks very quickly. There was a big minefield behind this. SCV is going to get pulled. Nice interference matrix right there, shutting down one of the bosses. This is a very messy fight, to say the absolute least. I think Astrea's breaking through, but on the other side, there's definitely a lot of chaos being caused on the third base. And this is going to turn into a weird kind of pseudo base trade, but I think Astrea might be able to break through at the front.
Okay, force field gets thrown down in the ramp, so no reinforcements can come in. There are 2 Vikings picking away at these Colossus with the Warp Prism, evacuating them further and further back. If the Colossus get on top of the bio, they are going to start evaporating. The Marauders trying to churn through the Stalkers. They cannot. And Astrea, the American hero, looks like he is pushing on into Cure's main base.
That he is. He's killed so many workers right here. He's going to be able to camp the production. The question is, does he recall or not? That is going to be a really difficult call to make, because if he recalls, he's going to potentially give up the kind of chokehold he's got on his opponent. A lot of army units in the top side. Oh, one of the Colossus goes down, and I think the War Prism fell as well. We will see the Vikings trying to take down this one Colossus, but they're not going to be able to get the damage done. Cure with a really nice little ambush in the main base. He is picking away a lot of these Stalkers, and he gets the Colossus. That is huge. And I think, oh man, the supplies are so low right now. Oh, this game is nutty.
Yeah, and I mean, back at home, as you can see in the picture-in-picture, Astrea basically has almost nothing left. He has 6 probes somewhere out on the map right now, but that actually means his army is even smaller than it would otherwise be. It's just these 6 probes, and he's even pulled them across the map. He has 435 resources. Those are so important because remember, Cure is a Terran player, and Terrans have the inherent advantage that they can lift their buildings and try and force a draw. If your opponent does not keep a Nexus alive, and probes to mine with, he needs to keep enough probes alive and enough to build a Nexus so he can eventually kill off floating buildings.
Absolutely. That was very nice from Cure, by the way. He targeted down one of those Stalkers with the 2 Marines that popped out. That was brilliant. Excellent decision-making right there. I think there's the recall.
Is this okay to do?
I don't know. Immortal getting very low, but it is on the other side of the Nexus. The Stalkers, there's only 2 of them. Probes are going to fall here. Medevac will get taken down. Immortal will fall, and I think that's going to be all she wrote there. Stalker number 1 is going to fall. Stalker number 2 is going to go down. Cure will take game number 2 and the series. Brilliantly done by the System Terran from